Hello, PennLive. Sean Adams, Life and Culture Reporter here, and I am in York Haven with Jeff Lebo, the owner of the largest collection of beer cans in the world. How's it going, Jeff?
It's going great.
Thanks for having us out here. I took a quick peek inside, and just like the first taste of your collection is already super impressive. So can you tell us just a little bit about how you got started collecting beer cans?
Sure. I was a 13-year-old kid, and my dad was working for American Can Company, which used to be in Lemoyne, Pennsylvania. And I remember when I was about 5 or 6, they had a family day, and I went in there, and you could see what Dad does at work. And I remember seeing all these cans flying around, and I was hooked. And then a little bit later, beer can collecting actually became a sort of a really big fad kind of hobby, especially amongst teenage boys for some unknown reason.
I'm sure I don't know why.
I have no idea. It was slightly naughty, but Mom kind of let you get away with it.
Sure.
As
long as the cans are empty, right?
Exactly. So I had some friends that collected, and I sort of got into it through them as well.
Okay.
So it's been a fun journey over the years, that's for sure. And I'm 26 now, so I've been collecting 13 years.
That's quite an impressive collection for 13 years.
Thank you.
So let's head inside and give the people a taste of what you have here in your collection. And it's not just beer cans, correct?
It's all sorts of brewery history. I collect what we call Breweriana in the hobby. It's any sort of beer and brewery related items. It can be advertising pieces. It can be
some advertising posters and things on the wall.
Yeah, lithos and trays and openers and bottles and cans, brewery statues, all sorts of fun things. And with the craft beer explosion that we've had recently, it's there's a real resurgence in the hobby. We're seeing a lot of folks who are coming at it from the craft beer angle that are really finding a lot of interest in some of the older historical pieces.
Yeah, definitely a lot of popularity with like the throwbacks and things like that.
Yeah.
So are you still adding to the collection as we speak?
Absolutely. Although about 5 years ago, I sold a little piece of my collection because my wife and I wanted to buy a property down in Costa Rica. So we actually sold off a bit of the collection to buy a property down there. And we've been developing that the last 5 years and getting ready to open another eco resort down there.
Oh, wow.
So we should be open in January.
So the first thing I noticed right here is you've got several varieties of the same brand, it looks like. Is that like there are slight differences in each of the cans?
Yes, absolutely. I collect minor variations. So you can see, for instance, with the Schaefer cans, they start way down there with the very earliest ones, and then the label variations progress throughout time. So I have them listed here on the shelves in sort of chronological order when they were manufactured. Now these are only the flat top type cans, which started in 1935. These would have required a special opener to get at the contents. In 1962, they invented the ring pull. So from 1962 on, a lot of the breweries started transitioning into the more convenient tab top type cans. So,
and I remember watching an episode of Mad Men and having Don Draper open it with a can opener. It blew my mind. But of course, you know all about that already.
Yeah, that's fun stuff.
And that was in 1962? That was
62, they started the ring pull, yeah. And it was actually Iron City beer out of Pittsburgh.
Is that right?
Was the first one to use the ring pull.
Hey, that's a PennLive Pennsylvania fact. So enjoy. That's so cool. All right, so yeah, as we're walking through, and this is we're just getting started here. This is the foyer. If there's any particularly notable parts of your collection, please feel free to point those out to us.
Well, these I think were kind of cool. These were brewed both in Orange, New Jersey and in New York, New York. These were Rheingold from about 1957, I believe. And they actually had a Rheingold girls competition. So you could send your photograph in and possibly become a Rheingold girl. Wow. They narrowed it down to 7 women. And this lady here, Margie McNally, was the winner. And that's kind of a cool thing. So I'm sort of trying to get all of them. They're kind of tough to get, though. Especially the New York variations are a bit more rare. So it's a constant challenge trying to get everything. That was always sort of the thing that interested me, is trying to figure out how many cans are there in the world? How many different label variations are there? And all these years later, I have about 96,000 different label variations in my collection.
96,000.
And I'm only scratching the surface.
And and I imagine there's so many more.
Yeah, there's tons that I'm missing.
And here we are. You've got some real hipster cred here for the Pabst Blue Ribbon old school variety. So
those are really old school. Some of those were from the 1930s.
Wow.
Yeah, I know that's sort of the beer of hipsters, isn't it? It's sort of marketed as kind of a hipster beer. Back in my day, PBR was kind of like, okay, if you wanted to get something really cheap, that was your beer.
I think that continues to today, if I had to guess. Great. So yeah, let's. Anything else notable on this wall that you feel like?
I could talk your ear off all day.
There's a Holden Caulfield looking fellow over here. Catcher in the Rye fans.
All right, well, let's maybe move on to the rest of the place.
Let's see what else we got.
Behind you, actually, we have the Rainier Jubilee series, and these were also from the 1950s. These were designed by notable cartoonists from the time. They had, I can't even remember how many different 100 label variations and color variations.
Yeah, but just to get an idea, if you can pan the camera over this way, from here to here, this is all variations of the same can going the whole way back to that wall.
And this is just one series from Rainier.
Wow.
But the legend has it that if you were to compile a list of every can from this series, in both, they were made in 11 ounce, 12 ounce by various breweries, various color combinations, there would be something like 11,500 different cans just in this one series.
That's incredible.
Which is why I say it's very challenging. And then Esslinger from Philadelphia actually had a similar series called the Party Quiz series. And they actually put quiz questions on each can. So you could be drinking with your friends and having a bit of a trivia night right on the can.
Oh, that's fun.
Pretty cool.
There might be beer companies out there that do this today. The closest I can think of is Lion's Head has the little things on the top of the beer bottles. Are you familiar with any other companies that have something similar?
I'm not familiar with any others that are doing that.
Well, that was a great idea, guys. I'd say you should bring that back.
Yeah, they were a cool brewery.
All right. And which room is this here?
So this is also cans from American cans that were flat top type cans that started in 1935. And over here we actually have one of the cans that was the very first can to be marketed in the U.S.
Wow.
And the U.S. was actually the first country in the world to market the beer can. This was Kruger Beer and Ale. These were from New Jersey, and they test marketed these in 1935 in Virginia. And they really had no idea how it was going to go. This was a novel idea. People were not used to drinking beer out of cans. But within a couple of months, they realized that it was going to be huge because their sales something like quadrupled in that market because of the novelty of this new type of container. And there were a lot of good reasons for using this type of container. It saves space, so you could transport a lot more product. It saved weight because rather than using glass, it was much lighter. Beer is affected by light also, so if you have a clear bottle and the light is getting in, it's going to go bad a lot quicker. So the can helped with that issue. So there were lots of reasons why it made sense. But American Can Company that marketed this can had problems convincing the breweries to install the very expensive canning lines.
Oh, that makes sense.
So they had a hard time convincing the smaller breweries in particular that did not have these large budgets that some of the national brewers had.
And we should also point out that you mentioned earlier this building you rented out as an Airbnb.
Yeah, we do. It's called Brewhouse Mountain Eco Inn, and we've been renting it for 5 years now.
And I'm sure it draws a lot of customers. It's just so interesting. Like everywhere you look, there's something interesting to look at. And we should also point out again some of the things you have up on the wall. And can you tell me the story of this display over here?
Yeah, this one actually was a friend of mine from the Netherlands. And we're in this organization called the BCCA, which is the Brewery Collectibles Club of America. And years ago, he came over from the Netherlands, and every year we have a thing called the Canvention. It's a big convention.
I get it.
International, get it? And so he made this convention display, and he won first place with this. And he originally had other types of cans in here, some really old, rare cans from Europe. And when he was finished with the display, he really had no use for it, so I ended up with it. I just couldn't let it go to waste.
Yeah, it's almost like a beer advent calendar.
Yeah, kind of like a little shrine.
Cool. Any other notable paraphernalia? There's a is that a radio?
Yeah, it's an old transistor radio. Actually, I'm not sure it's a transistor radio. I'm not sure what the difference is, but that would have been from probably the 1930s or so. Has kind of an Art Deco kind of a look. And it doesn't even work anymore, but I don't really care because it's just the style that I like.
Sure.
More than anything.
And obviously, a lot of the beer companies were either they had German roots from German families, and there's a lot of sort of German-looking, maybe Bavarian figurines over here and things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially in Pennsylvania, we had a lot of German Americans coming over. So that particular piece there is from Reading, the old Reading Brewery in Reading, Pennsylvania. And then we had our own in Harrisburg too, the Graupner's Brewery, which is pretty close to where the Patriot News building used to be in Harrisburg.
Oh, okay.
Market Street.
Yeah.
So the Graupner's Brewery used to be there, and I believe that closed in the 1950s.
Now, did Pennsylvania historically have a particularly high number of breweries, or is it just coincidental that it keeps coming up in conversation?
They did. Pennsylvania had an unusually large number of breweries. We had a fairly large population, pretty well established on the East Coast. And like I said, because there were so many German Americans who settled in Pennsylvania.
So much expertise already.
Yeah, they brought their brewing skills with them.
Great. All right, let's keep on.
Which way? What's the best way to go here?
Well, we could go back here. I'll show you some of the more, a little more modern cans. We were talking about the flat top cans, which started in 1935, and then we transitioned into what was called a zip tab can.
I've been wanting to ask why the red light in here.
Yeah, is there a particular reason for
The red light?
Yeah.
Just because it looks kind of cool.
It's not worried about preserving the bottles or the cans from damage or anything like that.
Although I do, I don't have any south-facing windows, for instance. I don't like to get any direct light in here. We try to keep this humidity controlled as well, so we don't get any problems with oxidation. So all of these cans would be what we call either zip tab cans or tab tops, which would have started in 1962. And these are all steel cans here.
Really?
Yeah, so the lightweight cans we have today are aluminum generally. And but you can see this would have been a can, say, from the 1960s that has an old type of top. This would be a zip tab. And these were notorious for people sort of cutting their hands on. A lot of times there were sharp edges. They had some things to work out. But you can see how substantial this steel is here. It's very, very heavy.
Oh yeah, it seems just by holding it a lot sturdier than an aluminum can. How exactly would the mechanism work here? You pop this open and then the whole lid would peel off?
Yeah, the entire lid would peel off.
Okay.
So what you basically did there was you created two pieces of trash, the top and then the body of the can.
So I can see how somebody would be in danger of cutting themselves that way.
So
anytime I open a can of soup, I'm like, it's taking your life in your hands.
It is. So for some of the younger viewers, you may have heard that song by Jimmy Buffett, Margaritaville.
Sure.
Right? So there's a line in there. It says, I blew out my flip-flop, stepped on a pop-top. That's what it is. He stepped on a pop-top. He's having a bad day.
No wonder he needs a margarita.
I mean,
I don't know what I assumed that was. Maybe a jellyfish?
He stepped on a pop-top. So now you know.
I'm so glad. Thank
So
you for
now,
a bit
of course,
trivia.
we have the stay tab, which only creates one piece of garbage.
Unless your
If
kids are
un-
collecting them for a fundraiser.
Exactly.
I don't know what they do with those, but that happens a lot. Yeah, any other notable cans in this room? And I see there's larger ones here. Is this 16
Yes, so this would be the
ounces?
16-ounce cans, yes. And
There's some malt beverages over here.
yeah, malt liquors, all sorts of fun stuff. Some of these, like you see here, are reunion cans that would be from different colleges. Princeton was notable for doing these at their reunions.
Okay.
Harvard did some. Some of the Ivy League schools would do special reunion cans, and they would get a particular brand to basically give them the cans in return for the use of, having their brand on there
Yeah.
promoted.
Not something that would go over so well today.
No, probably not too much.
For a good reason, I think. All right.
This is the kitchen back here?
Yes, this is the kitchen. So when folks rent this place, they have full use of all the facilities, including the kitchen.
I see you have several variations of coffee cans
Yes.
over here.
Yes, these are the old key wine coffee cans. It would have been from the 30s to the 60s, and they were pretty much phased out as well. They went to a larger size then.
As well as several different snacks and pretzels. I imagine a lot of those are probably also from Pennsylvania.
Yes, a lot of these are.
Very cool.
Yeah, lots of lard cans too. I mean, I just feel like people are so much happier having lard cans in their home. You need to have some lard cans to be truly happy.
So if someone stays as a B&B, do you have rules about just how they handle or don't handle any of the collectibles?
Yeah, we do have a whole list of rules. There's about 10 of them. The rule number 1 is have a great time, and then it goes on from there. But yeah, we have found that people are very respectful, though.
That's good. That's great.
And even though most of the people who stay here are not collectors and don't necessarily have a particular interest in brewery history and so forth, they really enjoy staying here. It's just a very unique, kind of weird place. So it's a great place to hang out on a weekend with your friends.
All right. Any other notable points of interest that you want to show us?
My goodness.
Other than all of it, obviously. There's plenty to...
Yeah, it's hard to sift through it all, isn't it?
How about, are there any cans in your collection that we've seen so far or that might still be on the tour that are particularly valuable?
Generally speaking, I don't have a lot of valuable cans in this house. I have another collection that I have in the house we live in.
Okay.
So most of the valuable ones I've kind of kept out of here since people are renting it and so
Well,
forth.
that makes a lot of sense.
All right.
Any other stops on the tour?
Oh, yes.
Oh, we're just getting started. Okay.
So here's the hallway. This is all aluminum cans. These would have been started in the 1960s. These would all be tab top type cans. And the modern cans that we have now, including the craft cans that are coming out, those would all be aluminum. So those are lots of fun.
Some lovely, there's hams, Genesee cream ale, we got Miller Lite,
A lot of Miller Lite.
Michelob. So yeah, a lot that are still available for purchase. Awesome. For you Shakespeare fans out here, there's a brand called Falstaff, known for some drinking in Shakespeare's play.
I should point out the bathroom as well, because even the bathroom has beer stuff in it. So
Oh, let me.
Yeah.
Let's get a.
Go this direction. Here's some more wall decals and looks like some more sort of pinup girls sort of advertisements from Corona. I don't know how old they are, if they're more recent.
Where do you go to find like these decades old signs and stuff?
Well, I have a website that's cansmartbeercans.com.
Yeah.
And I get a lot of leads from other folks who have things. You know, maybe someone is, cleaning out their attic and they find a whole stack of old signs. Maybe their grandfather worked at the brewery, or, a million different stories. A lot of times people are breaking through a wall to do some renovations in their home. And back in the day, people would be drinking on the job and putting the empty cans in the wall.
Ah, okay.
So we often find people who find things like that, and sometimes quite valuable things that people find in the wall. It used to be, the first impulse was to just throw anything away like that. But now with things like eBay and the internet, people can get a pretty good idea of what they have. And sometimes they have things that are worth hundreds of thousands of dollars that they find inside the wall. So that's the one piece of advice I give to people. Before you throw anything away, get in touch with someone who knows what it is they're looking at.
Seems like a good idea. Now, over here, what I thought were paint cans for a moment, but these 1 gallon cans, can you tell us a little bit about these? I've never seen something like this before.
Yeah, these are American gallon cans that started in the 1960s, and they proved to not be very popular in this particular market. So I think I'm only missing 3 cans that ever were known to exist. There are 3 more that I don't have that are really rare ones. And actually 2 of them I did have, and I sold them to buy the property in Costa Rica. But there are other countries that do produce gallon cans and 5-liter cans, notably Germany. So they're still being made in a slightly different design, but these would have all been from the 1960s.
Fascinating. Just don't confuse it with the can of antifreeze, which is
Right.
up on the top
Yeah,
shelf
you
there.
definitely don't want to put those stuff.
Very cool.
All right, where to next?
Well, let's head upstairs. Show you what we got going on up there.
So, are you a beer drinker?
I am a beer drinker, yeah. I particularly like supporting local breweries, so my favorite beers tend to be local ones.
Okay. Now, if you had to pick one, what's your favorite go-to? There's several more of these sort of mini kegs here.
Yes, we've got a couple of them here. These were mostly made in Germany. And these are slightly larger than a gallon. They're 5 liters. And they are just sitting there. We've had a couple people knock into them and sort of knock them over like
Whoops.
bowling pins.
I imagine that takes a long time to clean up.
It takes a little while.
I'm sure I wouldn't know what that's like, accidentally knocking the thing. As I carefully walk down this hallway. So these are all, like, you could actually tap these like a keg?
Yes, you could actually tap them like a keg. And they actually make a little system with a CO2 cartridge that puts pressure into the can and forces the beer out.
So yeah, I was putting you on the spot if you had to pick your favorite go-to.
I don't know that I have a favorite. I love all the local ones that are coming out, and it's really great to see so many of these doing well. You don't often see microbreweries closing, so that's really, really good to see.
Yeah,
that they're
definitely a
doing well.
booming industry these days.
Yeah, it's really great to see. So up here we have mostly non-US cans. These would be from countries other than the US. So all along this wall we have again the flat top cans, which would have started in 1935.
I love the angled roof display over here as well. And of course, a little bar area.
Yes, you've got to have a bar.
Now you had this place specially built, right?
Yeah,
This wasn't here on the premises when you moved in.
No, it wasn't. When I bought the property, it was just land, and I built the original house in 1988, and I built this one 10 years later, just for the collection.
So how about these cans over here? Looks like these like a bottle cap?
Yeah, so these
Sealed?
would have had a bottle cap on them originally. These are what we call cone top cans, and these started in 1936. And the competitor of American Can Company that marketed the flat top can is the one that came out with this. This is Continental Brewing Company. And so their niche was they were trying to market to the smaller breweries that couldn't afford the expensive canning lines. So the advantage to this type of can is it could be filled just like a bottle. So they could use their existing bottling equipment to fill it.
So it ended up like the laser discs of beer can technology, huh?
Exactly.
I like that
been.
analogy.
This is what could have been, ladies and gentlemen.
What could have been. And still is to some degree. We have the aluminum bottles, you know, the Budweiser has some, and there's other
I don't
brands.
think I've ever seen that.
They're actually made of aluminum, but they're shaped like a bottle. So they don't necessarily fit into a clean category. Is it a can? Is it a bottle? So we call them bottles.
I'll have to keep my eyes open for those.
And it's fun to say.
It is fun to say. That counts for a lot. And I see several bottle caps over here.
Yes, we have bottle caps too.
So
We also do I'm one of the organizers of a local Breweriana show called the Spring Thaw that we have every April. And we have it over at the Park Inn in Mechanicsburg. And we get hundreds of collectors from all over the country that come to it, and including folks who collect the crown caps. So it's actually the largest crown cap show in the world. We get people from all over the world that come there to buy and sell their crown caps.
And how does your cap collection compare to your can collection?
Oh, I'm just a novice when it comes to the bottle caps. There are people that have...
Can I walk behind here?
Absolutely, yeah.
Still seems pretty impressive, but yeah, I'm sure. Well, first of all, I don't need nearly as much space to store them.
This is true. You don't need to build a 6,000 square foot house to house your collection. It's a big advantage.
Take a business card. Oh, I like the little Budweiser man here.
Yeah, he's
Little
actually,
folk art.
I think my aunt bought me that years ago, and I forget exactly how this works. I think you pull it up, and then you get that.
Whoa!
A bit suggestive.
Don't want that on Facebook.
So yeah, that wasn't officially released by the Budweiser Corporation.
No, I don't believe so. I think
Okay.
that was sort of folk art.
Someone on Facebook is asking, where is this in Pennsylvania? This is in York Haven.
Hello
We're
from York Haven.
And then we're here with Jeff Lebo and at Brewhouse Mountain Eco Inn.
Indeed.
And this is an inn. You can stay here overnight if you
can
like.
stay here.
So what is an eco inn exactly?
So an eco inn is a place where we care about the environment, and we try to do what we can to, treat the earth fairly. So, for instance, we used about 1/3 of the building materials here were repurposed building materials. Things like all the insulation in the walls are actually made out of recycled newspaper.
Oh, wonderful.
Things like that. And then all the cleaning products we use, including all the laundry, is, we use anti-phosphate, low impact kind of things. And we're doing the same thing in our place in Costa Rica as well. Now down there we'll actually be doing 99% renewable energy to power
Very
that
nice.
place. A little bit harder to do here.
And when I see sort of an antique draft set, what would this be called?
So I call it the clown car of tapping. So these are actually all from the Graupner's Brewery in Harrisburg. These old taps. These would be from probably the 40s and 50s mostly.
So the taps themselves, they're just taken from some other display and attached to this vehicle?
I bought this thing at one of the shows. This was just something that a guy put together, but it actually would work. You could actually hook those up to kegs and actually make it.
You can serve as it is?
You could serve all 7 different beers out of there.
Out of the clown car?
Out of the clown car,
That's,
yeah.
I mean, that's how you get the best taste, I'm told.
I think that's true. I've heard that said before. there was a series in Scotland called the Tenants series, and they started back in the early 1960s marketing their product with pretty girls on the label. And they found that it was a really winning kind of combination until the 1980s, and then it became sort of politically incorrect.
Bit of a backlash, I imagine,
Yeah,
to
they
that
stopped.
campaign.
They stopped doing that after a while, but it was kind of cool while it lasted.
Well, and just talking about varieties of beer cans, it seems like nowadays a brand is sort of very possessive of this is ours, this is how you know it's our product. Do you see nearly this kind of variety in today's beer cans?
Well, with some of the craft brewers, actually, they seem to have a lot of leeway in the creative realm. I notice, compared with the bigger breweries like, for instance, Coors or Miller or Bud, Anheuser-Busch products, a lot of the newer craft breweries are very inventive with their graphics. So yeah, I've seen them actually getting more inventive, and it's sort of almost an anti-corporate,
Sure,
kind of
yeah.
thing going on. Like they want to just be free to market their product how they want to market their product, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely sort of a throwback in a lot of ways.
Right.
Is there a question?
Well, actually, I had a question, which is that given that for a long time with the microbrews, it was bottles only, and now I'm seeing more and more cans coming up from these microbrews, and which I guess means a lot more stuff for you to collect.
A lot more stuff for me to collect. Yeah, absolutely. I still collect the new stuff. My main passion is with the older stuff, but I still do collect the newer stuff as well. I think it's really cool that the craft brewers are doing so well, and it's just amazing to me. They seem to be continuing, every month there's more of them, and most of them seem to be doing quite well. So it's great to see that happening.
All right. What's the next spot on the tour? Any other rooms?
Well, I can show you one other thing here. These are the cone top cans again. Now these are U.S. cone tops, and these would have started in 1936 in order to compete with the American company brand, which was the flat top type can. So the advantage that these basically had was that if you were the brewery and you weren't large enough to be able to afford to install the very expensive canning lines to can the flat top cans, you could use this kind of a product with your existing bottling equipment. And that's also that innovation for the craft brewers now. They have these portable canning lines that the company will come into your brewery for the day, can as much product as you want, and then they leave. You don't even have to install a canning line anymore.
Wow.
Which is one of the reasons why a lot of them are starting to can their product.
Now, I've seen, for instance, the local brewery in Harrisburg, you can go, you're basically ordering a draft beer, and then they seal it up for you in a growler. Is that something that also is included in your collection, or is that a separate kind of can?
Yeah, I absolutely collect those, yeah. We call those crowlers, so can, growler.
I get it.
And everyone collects slightly differently. Some people only collect the printed labels that would be actually printed on the metal.
Mm-hmm.
Some people will do stickers, and with a lot of the crowlers, they don't actually print the can, they just put a sticker on.
Right.
I collect it all.
Very cool.
All right. Moving on. More stops.
I think that's probably just about it.
Where do the people stay if they're sleeping overnight here?
We have 5 bedrooms here. At the moment, we don't have them made up because we just had guests that checked out, so I didn't have a chance to make the beds.
Oh, okay.
But to give you an idea, yeah, we have 5 bedrooms that people can stay in,
Very cool.
and every room has cans from floor to ceiling.
And are the rooms themed at all?
Are they themed?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what room are we in right now?
Right now, we're in the Scandinavian room.
Bless you.
Excuse me. So, yeah, so here we have cans from Sweden and Norway and Finland and Denmark, mostly, and a few other places like Iceland.
So the United States sort of kicked off the canned beer industry.
It did.
And then a lot of European countries sort of followed suit, I imagine.
Yeah, so 1935 was American Can Company with their test marketing in Virginia with the Kruger product. 1 year later, a Welsh brewery, Felonful, was actually the first place outside of the U.S. to can their product.
Now, did the canning take a hit during World War II with
It
metal
did.
use?
Yes, it really did. Early 40s, they were canning their product in the UK, and because of the war, all of those cans, along with any other metal, ended up getting melted down for the war effort. So the pre-war cans from Europe are very, very hard to come by. And most of them are melted down. A few of them survived. So every once in a while, I'll get an email from someone that has something they found in their attic or something like that, which is always kind of fun.
Oh, and hey, look at these. Were these actual cans of beer here?
These are
guys?
actually filled with water, and they were just put out as souvenirs for the various breweries.
Oh, that's
Those
still
would
pretty
all be
cool.
from European countries.
They're adorable. For when you just need a shot of beer.
Yeah.
There's some Anheuser-Busch products in there as well.
Yeah, if you have sort of a Barbie doll with a house, it's perfect size.
That's right. All right. So we're gonna go out this way. I like the suit of armor there.
Yeah, that's kind of fun too. Has nothing to do with beer whatsoever.
Oh, you mean the armor wasn't filled with beer at one point?
It should be. Maybe I'll just tell people that it was, yeah.
Oh, and there's a pinball machine right behind you. Is this still functional?
It is not functional. We've tried several times to get it fixed, and it doesn't seem to want to stay fixed. But it still looks pretty cool.
Yeah.
All right.
Another bedroom over here. Oh, and there's some sliding walls with shelving.
Yes, we
here.
do have sliding walls because I couldn't build the house big enough to display everything. So, some of the walls we've actually got 3 and 4 cans deep. And I actually got that idea from a collector friend of mine in Prague, in the Czech Republic. He was an engineer, and I went to visit him and see his collection. And he had a very similar kind of arrangement in his apartment. He had something like 20,000 cans in a very small apartment, and he was able to display all of them with this kind of a setup.
Very cool.
And over here looks like Japanese beer.
Yeah,
Chinese?
so this is what I call the Pacific Rim room. So this would have Japan, China, Indonesia, Australia, New Zealand, and so forth. Fiji Islands.
As for a lot of Japanese products, there are several kind of adorable characters on these, which again probably wouldn't fly here in the United States.
No, we have laws about putting cartoon characters on beer.
This is this little guy. They're having a good time.
I think some of them have teddy bears too, which is really getting a little too close. Yeah, we want to encourage 2-year-olds to start drinking at a very early age.
I like the little cowboy cow.
Right, toddlers, drink responsibly.
Right?
All right.
All right. I think that about wraps up our tour. Jeff, thanks so much for showing us around.
Glad to have you.
This is really cool stuff. So check out more on PennLive.com.